Hi everyone. We have finally made it to Adobe Illustrator, which is very exciting. And one of the first things that we're going to learn is how to make shapes. Shapes are very important um, to working in Illustrator. So we are going to start by using our shape tool. Again, as we reviewed, our tools are still on the left-hand side of our interface. And here we have our shape tool options: the rectangle tool, rounded rectangle tool, ellipse, polygon, star, and flare tool. So what I would suggest, because we're going to be doing so much work with the shape tool, is to drag this out into one of its own panels. So if I click this white arrow here, I now can float my shape tool options as its own panel. You should open up your vector shape worksheet that you can find in Schoology in order to follow along. So the first thing that I'm going to do is we're going to work with rectangles. And we'll follow through this worksheet to make all of these shapes. What I want you to do is come up, when you have the rectangle tool selected, and we know it's selected because it has a box around it, I want you to come up to your stroke and change it to 3-point. And now you'll see that your cursor has changed into almost a plus sign. I'm going to click on the corner, and actually what might be easier is if I zoom in here. Remember, Command plus to zoom in, Command minus to zoom out. I can always press my space bar to get this hand tool and then navigate around my artboard. I am going to click on the corner of this rectangle and drag, and you can see that Illustrator is giving me a red line to show a preview of what shape I'm going to make. If I release, you'll see that I have created a shape, and Illustrator is giving me a red line to show the 4 anchor points of this shape and the path that I created. The reason my line is so much thicker than my path is because I changed the weight of my stroke to be thicker. From here, I can take my selection tool or press V on our keyboard, and we can move our shape around. We can also resize our shape. Remember, holding Shift will scale it up and down proportionally. But I'm going to leave it right where it is. I'm going to slide over to our next shape that we're going to create. And because I have the Move tool selected, I need to go back to my rectangle tool. I'm going to start in the corner, except this time I'm going to hold Shift as I work. And Shift, again, as I mentioned, will help scale up and down proportionally and give us a perfect square. And release. I'm going to move on to the next tool. What we know about squares is if you put them on their sides, they become diamonds, like this shape right here. So I don't have to redo all of this work again by making a new square. Instead, I can press V on my keyboard and select this shape. I'll know it's selected because it has the anchor point selected and its path. And I'm going to press Command C, which stands for copy, and Command V for paste. And you'll see that I now have a copy of the shape that I just made, the shape that was selected. If I hover, again, I have the Move tool selected. If I hover over this shape on the corners, I'll get the arrows that will help me rotate this shape. I'm going to click and hold down Shift as I do it. I'm going to click and hold down Shift, and it'll snap it into place with a 45-degree move. And then I will have this diamond shape that I'm looking for. Now, the next one. The next one looks really similar to the diamond shape, but it's a triangle. It doesn't have 4 sides, it only has 3 sides. So I'm going to use the same strategy when I copied and pasted from the square to the diamond as I'm going to do here. So I'm going to make sure that my diamond is selected. I know it's selected. Right now it's not selected. Now it is selected. I know it's selected because I have my anchor points highlighted and the path highlighted in red. I'm going to press Command Copy and Command Paste. And here I have part of what I'm going to use to create this triangle. Now, obviously this is bigger than I want. It has more information on one side. I almost want to cut it in half. But instead, what I'm going to use is our pen tool. Our pen tool is over here on the side, and there's a delete anchor point tool here. If I use my delete anchor point pen tool, and I know it's the delete anchor point pen tool because it has a little minus sign next to it, and I click on this anchor point, I'm deleting that anchor point. So remember those rubber bands. It's going to snap back into place. It now only has 3 anchor points. So now I have my triangle. I'm going to go back to my move tool. Let's zoom out. I have 3 circles that I'm going to work with. Just like with our rectangle tool, our ellipse tool is going to create a perfect circle by holding down Shift as I work. I can select my move tool and move this into place. If it's not perfect, don't worry about it. I'm going to do something similar over here that I did with this triangle. I want to make just half of a circle. So I'm going to make sure that I have my circle selected. I'm going to Command Copy and Command Paste to make a copy of it and put it into place. And as you might have guessed, I'm going to take my pen tool and go to the delete anchor point. And now I'm going to click on this anchor point right here to delete it. If you don't hit the anchor point exactly, you'll get an alert from Adobe Illustrator saying that you must hit an anchor point to delete it. So let's zoom in, Command plus, so that I can make sure that I'm on this point. Now, you'll notice that this point is curved. This line, this path is curved, and I want it straight. I'm going to take my direct selection tool, or I can press A on my keyboard, and I have these anchor point handles. I'm going to take this handle, this point of it, and push it back into the anchor point to make a straighter line. And I'm going to do the same thing down here. And now if I take my move tool again or press V, you can see that I've created that straight line, that half circle. Then we have one more to work with over here. I don't want to repeat or do extra work, so I can Command Copy, Command C, Command V to paste. And again, I can rotate using my move tool and hovering over a corner until I get those arrows. I can start to rotate, and then if I hold down Shift, it'll help me snap it into place. There we go. All right, moving on to the star tool. I'm going to select the star tool, and it's a bit easier to use the star tool starting in the middle. So find the middle of that star as best you can. And as you move your mouse up, you'll see that my star is growing. And I can find to just about where I think it fits on this example and release. This star looks different. You can tell that it has more points. So I'm going to start by making a star just like I did before, and if I press up on my arrow keys, I will get more points to my star. And I can scale it to about where it fits to the sample. I'm going to do almost the same thing here. I'm going to start stretching out my star, but you'll see that the points are shallower and not quite as pointy. So if I hold down Command and move my mouse up and down, you'll see that I can get really pointy points to the star or much shallower points. So I'm going to get it to where about it looks correct here. And remember that I can always take my move tool, holding down Shift, I can scale and rotate this to fit in place a little bit better. All right. We're we have 2 more sections left. I'm going to take the polygon tool and you'll see just like the star tool, as I stretch it, it'll get bigger. As I push towards the center, it'll get smaller. And if I release, I can use my move tool and move this polygon into place. I'm going to start to do the same thing, except this time I'm going to press the down arrow, and this will change the number of sides that I have on the polygon tool. By pressing V, I can go ahead and move this into place. I can go ahead now and move this into place. Getting my polygon tool again, I now can make more sides by pressing the up arrow. And V again will allow me to move this into place. I have my rounded rectangle tool. I can use Shift to make a square, but here's a rectangle, so I'm just going to follow what we have on the worksheet and release. Now this one is much more rounded, so I'm going to go ahead and start to make the same shape, except now I'm going to use my up arrow and start rounding these edges just a little bit more. And then I can press V on my keyboard to get my move tool and put it into place. I'm going to go back to my rounded rectangle tool, and I can drag out to make a really long rectangle and be put back into place. So those are some of the basic shapes that you're going to use in Adobe Illustrator, and some tips and tricks as you use them. Don't forget that you can cut and copy. You can delete anchor points like we did with this diamond and this half circle. With our star tool, we can add points, create less points to the star, and we can make the star points shallower and sharper. With our polygon tool, we can change the number of sides that our polygon has. And with our rounded edge rectangle tool, we can change the roundness of the corners. Hopefully that you found this helpful, and I'm excited to see what you come up with.